Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by a very special guest, Kacper. You've probably seen him a few times on the channel. He is our he's our Polish boxing expert. I think he's probably the most knowledgeable man in boxing in the whole of Poland, and he's here again joining us as we look ahead to this weekend's fight. Ireland's Belfast, even so where I'm from, Tommy McCarthy travels to face Michal Cieslak. I'm sure I've pronounced that wrong, Casper, but he's facing him in Poland. Cruiserweight contest, obviously. Cieslak 24-2 with 18 KOs. McCarthy 20-4 with 10 KOs. But first and foremost, Casper, thanks very much for joining me, mate. How are things, and are you excited for this fight?
Yeah, I'm excited for this fight. This is a big surprise for us in Poland because to get a fighter like Mccarthy to come to Poland, actually, that's a big thing. I think that's a statement from his promoters, and that's really a proper fight for Michal Cieslak. He's on his comeback trail after losing to Okoli, and this will be his fourth fight. And I believe that if he wins this one, then he may think about another championship fight.
Absolutely, yeah, as you mentioned there. Cieslak only been defeated twice before. Against the Lungu Makabu and Lawrence
Yeah.
Okoli, both world title fights. So he's won all of the other 24 fights he's won have been non-world title fights, but he has fought for world title twice. This is obviously for the European cruiserweight title, which Tommy McCarthy has won before, and Cieslak holds now, I believe. So what are your kind of general thoughts on the fight, Casper? Is this one that the general consensus in Poland is that it's Cieslak should be winning?
Yes, general consensus is that Cieslak is getting better and better, stronger and stronger, and that the fights that he had after losing to Okoli, they were the good fights to build him up. So he's still rebuilding after losing to Okoli, but now the landscape in the cruiserweight division is, I would say, wide open, and I believe that he's a top 10 fighter, and yeah, he's the strong favorite to win. I don't believe that this will be an easy fight for Cieslak. This will be a tough, grueling match, I believe. But I really think that he may stop Tommy McCarthy late or after mid rounds, and I expect him to do so. To be frank.
Very interesting. Obviously, I'm coming at it from I'm from Belfast, same place as Tommy McCarthy, so I'll obviously be supporting McCarthy here to win. But I think it's interesting what you've mentioned there. Since the Okoli defeat, Cieslak had three straight knockout victories. Look at
Yeah.
since the Chris Smith rematch, Tommy McCarthy obviously was a very close fight first time around with Smith. Then in the rematch, he got stopped conclusively by Smith. Since then, he's kind of fought two journeymen. His last fight was actually in September 2022. I
Yeah.
was at that event, and he was fighting a German journeyman who had as many losses as he had wins, and he actually lost a couple of rounds. Tommy McCarthy. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that he's on the decline or anything, but I just think it probably was a motivational thing. It was just to kind of get in, just fight anyone just to get a fight. But you could tell he wasn't motivated for the fight. Maybe didn't train as hard as he should have done. But this is another big opportunity for him. You look at his defeats, and like we've said there about Cieslak, his defeats only to Makabu and Okoli for world titles. McCarthy's defeats are only really kind of top-ish level as well. You got that Matty Askin defeat was early on,
Yeah.
and since then he's got defeated by Richard Riakporhe by a knockout. Riakporhe, a lot of people say, is a top 10, top 5 potential cruiserweight. Then the two Billum Smith defeats as well. So yeah, I think it's an interesting one from my perspective. I can see if the best version of Tommy McCarthy turns up, it wouldn't be a huge surprise to me. If he won the fight. In saying that, though, have that glint in your eye, Casper. You seem very confident that Cieslak's going to win. If I was going to ask you in percentage terms, how confident are you that Cieslak's going to win this? What would you say?
It's well over 80.
Well, really, very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I believe that Cieslak is one of the best Polish fighters. He has an awesome coach. They are getting together just fine, and I really believe that he's getting better at his age. He's older than Tommy, but I don't think he's sleeping. I believe that Tommy might be sleeping, as you mentioned, his last two fights, even though he won those fights, the opposition level was really low. I believe that Tommy was supposed to challenge Arsen Goulamirian for WBA belt. It was this year, probably, if I remember correctly. And I believe he probably should have done so. He probably should have took that fight, because the fight with Cieslak is as dangerous as fight with Goulamirian, but the price is not that great, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point you make. That I would have liked to see that Gulmarian fight. I think he's a bit of an unknown quantity,
Yeah.
and as you said there, you've hit the nail on the head. This is an equally as tough fight, but with no world title belt at stake, just kind of obviously the European title, but he's already won it before. But then you have to commend McCarthy for going to Poland, going to the Cieslak's backyard and attempting to become a two-time European champion. Um, Obviously this Saturday, November 4th. How do you kind of give me, before we finish up, Casper, kind of give me a almost like a round by round analysis of how you think the fight will play out. I know you're confident that Cieslak's going to win, and you alluded to potentially a mid to late stoppage. But how do you see the fight playing out?
I think Cieslak matches well with McCarthy. I think he's the better boxer and he's the better fighter. Saying that, I believe that he will gradually break McCarthy down, and I expect him to stop Tommy sometime after round 6 or 7. Something like that. I really believe in Cieslak in this matchup. I think that this is the perfect fight at this time of his career. He's number 2 at WBO and number 7 at WBC, and I really believe that he will be challenging for the world title pretty soon, or he will get an eliminator, because on the same day Macabo is fighting Noel Gevor for the WBC vacant belt, because Badujak is supposedly going to Bridgerweight to fight for this WBC title. So the situation in cruiserweight is wide open. It's really good. I only want the best fighter, the best to fight the best. That would be the perfect scenario. I also wouldn't like seeing Michal Cieslak against Jay Opetaia, because I believe that Opetaia is number 1 right now, and he will probably only get better. So so I would advise Polish fighters to stay away from Jay Opetaia.
Yeah, interesting. Fair play. I'm gonna. Do you know what? I think this probably comes as no surprise. I'm gonna back McCarthy here. I don't know whether that's my Belfast bias talking, but I think that on his day he does have the tools to win this fight. Whether or not he's got those tools at his disposal this weekend, and whether or not we're seeing a peak Tommy McCarthy anymore, I'm not so sure. But I think if he is on his A game, yes, it's a tough fight and it won't be easy at all. It'll be extremely close, but I potentially see Tommy McCarthy winning this on points. To be honest with you, so we're disagreeing, Casper. But yeah, really enjoyed that chat with you. Thanks as always for jumping on. Anytime a British or Irish fighter is fighting a Polish fighter, Casper's on. So I'm sure we'll have him on in the not so distant future,
Yeah.
with obviously the Billum Smith and Masternak fight coming up, and there'll be plenty more too. But Casper, I appreciate your time as always, mate. Thanks very much for joining me, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks a lot. See you. Bye bye.